welcome to episode 60 of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
And my name is Ian.
What? I don't know. I always try to do some kind of, I don't know, something strange.
You do it strange, and then I do it normal. I get called out. I do it strange, and then I get called out. You just don't want to hear me talk.
It's taken you 60 episodes to figure that out?
You just want to do this show by yourself.
Yeah. Can I just call it the Nick Show?
Well.
It'd be the highest rated podcast on planet Earth.
In your house. It might be not even there.
Touche. So yeah, this is episode 60.
Yeah.
And actually, interestingly enough, Ian, this is also, as far as us doing podcasts, this is our 100th podcast episode.
That we've actually recorded. Yep.
Because we've done 6. So this is the 60th episode of Life in General. We did 25 episodes of Entertainment Now. Mm-hmm. We did 12 episodes of Partisan Bites, and then Ian had this little show that lasted 3 episodes.
No, I did.
Okay, fine. He did 3 episodes, then it's gone on a very long hiatus.
Yes, it was a 3 episode season.
Yeah, so
and now we've restructured and about to do season 2. A year and a half later.
Well,
it's like a Netflix show. It takes 2 years to get a fucking new season.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but way better because no one fucking dies in my show.
Hopefully.
Well, it would just be me, so I don't know. I guess if I die recording it, since I'm by myself, no one's gonna ever listen to it anyway.
Very true.
You know? Unless you're gonna go and like confiscate my computer and look for the. Oh, yep, there's his recording.
There it is.
Yeah. Right next to the Pornhub.
Oh, Jesus.
Just kidding.
Whatever. I don't know. You've been talking about this show for like a year now, so
it's like I said, it's been a work in progress. Perfection is not.
So the
does
beginning
not come out overnight.
So in the beginning of 2018, we had a show like that talked about what we were looking forward to doing in the next year, and one of the things you talked about was returning to your show.
You're right.
And now,
and
a year later,
and I began working through the process of thinking about that.
So it's like when you're working on a movie, and then like all of a sudden the director falls out, and then you have to get a new director, and then so it's like production issues. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I'm all of the above. So
yes.
I'm the writer, the director, the producer, the performer. I'm everything. So that's all.
Gotcha. But you've got something coming out though.
Yeah, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
So yeah, there was 3 episodes of that, and that's 100 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah, so
impressive.
It's kind of a milestone episode here, I guess.
Yeah, and who would have thought? When we first started, staring down just even doing 10 episodes was like, wow.
Staring down 1 episode was like, wow.
Yeah, no, I think in the beginning we had that like optimism, like that. This is gonna be awesome, and then. I think we still maintain that, but it was so early, we just didn't know what was going to happen.
So the first episode we recorded was January 7th, 2017. So it was 1717.
Right.
And I remember like taking a shower earlier that day and like rehearsing the intro to the show like 15 different times.
You know what I did?
Nothing, because
I just showed up.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, you've done that for 59 episodes.
I have.
Showed up.
No,
hey.
I've done it for 99 episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
Roughly.
No, because you were prepared for your 3 shows.
Yeah, prepared's a bit of an overstatement.
And then for the 25 Entertainment Now episodes, you were
I at least had to watch something.
Yes, so you were somewhat
But there
prepared.
were a couple of those episodes where I didn't even watch the material, or at least finish it.
Yeah, finish it, yeah.
So
yeah, when you get like Russian copy, what movie was that?
A Quiet Place.
Oh, that's right.
So it worked out because it didn't matter. It was a silent movie anyway.
It didn't matter that it was in Russian.
Yeah. I was expanding my what's that word about language? What's that word?
Linguistics?
I was expanding my linguistic horizons.
Gotcha. And you've been prepared for like, I don't know, 10 of our 60 episodes.
Yeah.
Like
I think that might be generous, but fair enough.
Episodes where we've done like top 10 lists, you've had to be prepared
those
for.
I've had to be because I had to have something.
And then we had the one episode where we did, where we talked about like historical figures. I think we each picked one.
Yeah.
So you were prepared for that.
That was actually initially kind of planned to be a regular thing, but we never really got.
But now that we're on weekly shows,
yeah, we could probably still do that.
Yeah, we might need to fill in some some spaces on episodes.
Yeah,
so.
I think it'll be fine. Yeah, we can. I had no problem. I don't think those episodes were bad in any way.
Well, episode.
I thought we did 2.
No, we only did 1.
Oh, well, I don't think that episode was bad. It was so good, I thought we did 2 of them.
Well, I think you probably thought we did 2 of them because we were supposed to do 2 each. But then we carried on for so long, we could only talk about one each.
Right, that's
so I
true.
still have my notes for the other individual.
No, I don't have any notes.
Of course you don't.
No.
Come on.
And for the record, for our religion episode, I came with like pages.
Oh, that's
I even brought my own fucking Bible.
And actually the topic for tonight was actually Ian's topic, and he took notes, and, notes-ish. He gave me a list of things I had to go over.
And that's notes.
So Ian gave me a list of notes I needed to fucking take.
Right. Well, but I'm not giving you shit about how far you took that. You could have taken it to the same level that I did, which was bare minimum, or you could have taken it to the nth degree, which is probably what you did.
Well, because that's typically what I do.
Yeah. So
I've got 4 pages.
All
of
I
notes.
did was give you a slight guideline. It was a 1-page email.
I don't even think it was 1 page, but I've got 4 pages of single-spaced notes.
Yeah. I have a playlist on my Spotify.
Yeah. Good job,
I
Ian.
know. I did good.
So we're going to talk about. There was what? I'm sorry, Ian. What episode was that again? I know I just looked up.
43, I think.
No, yeah, 43. So episode 43, we talked about whether or not rock and roll was dead, and we've kind of revisited it a couple times since then. And that's kind of the avenue we're going to take with this episode. But before we get into that, I kind of wanted to go off on a side topic. It's music related, at least.
Okay.
So I found this new podcast, and it's a really cool podcast. It's called The Vinyl Guide. If you listen to the show and you're into vinyl music, it's a really cool show to listen to. He gets kind of into the technical side of a lot of different things, and every episode they either talk about a specific album, or he interviews an artist, or someone in the recording industry that is kind of hands-on with the record making process and things like that. So it's really kind of cool how they get into it. So he had, let me see if I can find the name of this guy. So he had the last episode, I don't remember what episode number it was. He's in the 170s or something like that. He's into. But he had a guy on the show. His name was Joe Harley. He was part of Music Matters, which was they released a long series of like archived old jazz albums that they remastered and released. So he's also doing the same thing now for Blue Note Jazz.
Okay.
So Blue Note is a jazz label, or was a jazz
I'm familiar
label.
with it, yeah.
So he's doing the same thing with their jazz archive, and he's kind of going through. And I think we talked about this off air a couple of days ago, but he was kind of going through these old original recordings, which, if you know anything about the recording process, like from like the mid 40s through like the late, like 68 to 71, they used Scotch 111 was the tape that they used for the recording process.
And it was the 30s, you said, or like 40s?
40s through like late 60s, early 70s.
I think because in the 30s they were still just like they were recording on like vinyl tablets.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
So they were using Scotch 111, which held up really well. And he said if you get past like 68 to 71 if you get past there, they changed. I forgot the different chemicals and stuff that was in Scotch 111 that they can't use now, and there were some environmental things that they had to take out, and so it kind of, the music kind of degrades over the years. Where he said this Scotch 111, you put in a jazz album from say 1955, it sounds like it was just recorded yesterday.
Okay,
that's the kind of quality that this tape retains.
Yeah.
So he was kind of going through this process over the last couple of years of reissuing all these old,
creating new masters. I would imagine too.
Well, he's going off of the tapes,
right? But he has. I'm assuming he wants to make new. I'm hoping not digital masters.
No,
he can still make analog masters, but remastering them.
He's remastering them and pressing them on vinyl.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he's saying if you go from these, now this is a guy that has a great, according to this show and some of the stuff I read about this guy, he's got a great ear for music. So, but according to him, he says when you take these old originals and you press them on vinyl, you retain about 95 to 98% of the true sound of the original recording is coming through on vinyl. And he said whereas if you go to an MP3 digital or even a compact disc, it's still a compressed file on that compact disc. You're really only getting 85, 90, maybe 92% of that sound. So really what you're losing is kind of the depth and richness of the music. And if you listen, I've heard people say that over the years, especially since like the mid 2000s when vinyl kind of came back to the forefront.
I've been saying it for a decade or better.
Yeah, and I hear people say, things just sound better on vinyl. It always to me sounded kind of like the hipster thing.
Right. Even before the hipster thing it sounded it could come off as sounding pretentious or I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So and I didn't really realize it until just recently, in like last couple of weeks. I bought the remastered reissue of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Mm-hmm. I've always been someone that's been like kind of a Pink Floyd fan. I've liked some of their music. I thought some of it was kind of overrated. I've always liked Dark Side of the Moon. I know it's not my favorite. It's not your favorite, and you're not a huge fan of it. I've always liked some of the songs on it. I never thought it was really all that great of an album, but I've always listened to the digital form of it. Like I said, either MP3 or compact disc, and that's really the first album that I put on. And it sounded completely fucking different.
Right.
I mean, it's got a complete different sound on vinyl than it does in compressed form.
Yeah.
And I remember just like listening to it. I want to say it was just last week. And I mean, I cranked it up and it was just like
a whole new
experience. It was like the first time I realized kind of the greatness of this album.
Right.
But
through the quality of
vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was really surprised by it, and that's when it's been after that I listened to this episode. And I'm like, it kind of all clicked. I'm like, well, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
It kind of quantified it for you.
There's just such a richness and different tone to the music, and it's like, there's some songs on Dark Side that's like, okay, but it's still you even those songs you kind of listen to parts of it. I remember the one song I wanted to bring up, but it kind of drones on. You've had issues with some Pink Floyd music where it kind of drones on, and like nothing changes, there's no difference to it. Mm-hmm. And then you listen to the vinyl,
and you hear the changes. In the background,
and you can hear
the nuances.
It. Yes, there's you pick up different parts of it. You're like, wow, I never noticed that before.
Right.
And I don't know, it was just kind of brought the album to a new light to me, I guess.
I just thankfully vinyl has caught on to a point where it's profitable, because it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's truly, especially when you're at home, and if you're listening to music at home, it's truly the only way to listen to music.
It really is.
And because it's become profitable and it has picked up, there's no worry that it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I don't think it ever should. As long as we're recording music, I think vinyl should be the forefront format of physical media.
It'll never be as popular as it once was, just because it's not very portable.
Right, but it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. You're right.
The way the world of music is now, like I said, at home. When you're at home, you put a record on.
Yeah.
When you're in your car, you've got Spotify, you've got Apple Music, you've got whatever. Uh-huh. Or a CD if you want to be even slightly old school in that way. You can still pop a CD in.
Yeah.
So portability isn't an issue, because when you're at home, vinyl is the only way to listen to music.
There's just a different sound. You could take your favorite album, especially people that are younger than us.
Right.
Because when we grew up, we still had,
vinyl records were
vinyl
still
for the first 10 plus years of our lives.
Yeah.
Vinyl was still a dominant force, not as dominant as say cassettes and then CDs were later.
Well,
and
that was more the portability though.
Yeah, but cassettes still kind of retain a little bit more of the sound than even
they degrade faster.
They do degrade faster.
Yes.
And I think that probably has more to do with the tape side of it. Same thing with the whole Scotch 111 versus what they use now. Or what they use past.
Well, those were chemical. That was chemical tapes, and these are cassettes are magnetic.
But it's kind of But what I'm saying though is the same kind of degrading principle,
right?
And then another kind of issue that I've had with vinyl that I've mentioned before that they kind of tackled in that podcast episode was kind of the cost. And I understand vinyl when we were growing up was 100 to 120 gram.
Yeah, thereabouts. It was thin.
It was thin. It was a lot thinner. And the stuff now is 180 to 200 gram.
Yeah, and I think 180 is probably the main standard, primary standard.
So, it's substantially thicker vinyl, so I kind of understand some of the cost of it. There's also, we were talking before the episode, and there is some cost involved with the digital download cards. From what I understand, it adds about $1 worth of cost onto the album, which is
a lot. Actually,
it is. It is when you consider your standard record. You're talking $25 plus.
Right. Well, think of the cost of CDs. What it costs to make a CD. One compact disc with case is probably $2.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about not just the packaging, not the record itself, but just the digital code. And what it cost to maintain that code is $1 right there, where so the cost of manufacturing, the cost of producing of a vinyl with that digital code, the code by itself is 50% of what it would cost for one whole CD. So I understand. Plus, they're just now starting to expand factories to press vinyl. So for a long time there was a backlog.
Yeah.
And that kicked the cost up because there was only a finite amount of places that you could even get your stuff pressed to get it into a store.
But kind of the way that what he was talking about, this Joe Harley was talking about. So I've never bought a Music Matters vinyl, but I guess it is a little bit more pricier than standard vinyl. And he says that he said it's basically the quality of plastic compound that the presser uses. He says so. Music Matters and
uses virgin vinyl
and blue, the stuff they're doing with Blue Note now. It's not really necessarily like virgin vinyl because I guess Japan uses virgin vinyl, which is why Japanese imports are always so expensive. But they use a higher quality plastic compound. But he said that it adds $8 raw cost per album.
Wow, that's a lot.
So if you buy in a double album, which is a lot of double albums, I've got a lot of double albums, that's $16 worth
that's just the plastic.
Of just additional cost, raw cost for the plastic.
Right. That doesn't even count the sleeve and the artwork and everything else that goes into it.
No. So if you look at right there, because I remember when I was younger, when something came out on vinyl, when Appetite for Destruction came out, I bought it.
Was like $12, $15.
Because I bought it on vinyl when it was
even
new.
back then, that was kind of a lot of money, but that was just kind of the progression of the industry.
Yeah, because the vinyl kind of ranged from $10 to $15,
right? Which is what CDs kind of got to a point real quick as well.
And vinyl now is I just bought Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue. I just bought it for $19.
Right, but that was a used copy.
No, that was brand new.
Oh, was it brand new?
It was brand new, 180 gram.
Yeah, so that's not bad. But I'm used to paying $23 to $30.
And that's what I was gonna say. So vinyl now you're looking at on the low end $20 up to
about $30.
Yeah, roughly on average. And there's a lot of and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this because I want to move on to a different music topic too but a lot of the stuff you get into when you get into double vinyl, you're getting $40-$45 a lot of times
easily. Yeah.
So when you think of $8 to $16 worth additional cost, then it kind of makes sense. You're like, wow,
well, if that's just raw costs, you figure in the cost of the artwork. We'll say arguably it might cost $23 to make that entire package. What do you have to sell that for in order to
make
sustain profitability?
So that's when you're talking about $35 albums.
And I'm thinking with something like that, with a Blue Note album, if it's costing that much,
Music Matters and Blue Note, you're probably talking $45.
$50,
yeah, $45 or $50.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I've heard the argument that vinyl's too expensive now, but like we were just kind of pointing out, when you figure in rate of inflation. And then that on specific albums and specific labels, it's really not. They weren't paying, rate of inflation essentially the same as what it cost in 1978.
Yeah.
To make to buy a record,
and to kind of bring these to kind of two topics together, I had a decent record collection when I was growing up. Then when my parents moved, they threw it all out, and I was kind of hesitant about repurchasing a lot of that vinyl over the years, just because of the cost of it. But as I've kind of got into it and built my record collection, I got a pretty decent little record collection.
It's bigger than it was when your original collection.
Oh yeah,
I know mine is
probably double, if not triple, what it was.
Mine's about triple.
But but now I'm to the point now where I'm like, after understanding the quality of the sound, I don't have a problem spending $25-$30 on vinyl.
No, me neither.
It's not, because it's like you like I said before, you can take your favorite album, something that you've listened to hundreds of times, over the last decade. You can take that and then take it on vinyl and listen to it on vinyl, and a lot of times it's almost like a brand new experience with it. Mm-hmm. Because if you kind of have a musical ear, you pick up a lot of different, like you said, a lot of different nuances that you didn't see. Even though you know the album front to back and you've heard it thousands of times, you hear differences to it. You hear the depth, the richness to the music.
Sometimes it's even just a note sounds slightly different.
Exactly.
And I've even noticed that in just higher quality digital remastering.
Yeah.
Not to mention how it would, translate onto vinyl.
Yeah.
So,
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check out that podcast.
Yeah, it's called The Vinyl Guide.
The Vinyl Guide?
Yeah. So, check that out. And then one other thing before we kind of get into the main topic was, I was on Facebook. I probably mentioned this before. I'm on a bunch of different vinyl groups on Facebook. Yeah. There's a lot of really good ones out there. There's some really trashy ones out there too. I'm part of both.
Right.
I've got some that they just like.
It's kind of like your personality.
Fuck you. But no, I'm part of. I'm on one group where they just kind of post old vinyl that they have for sale, and it's basically like your garbage bin.
Right.
Trash.
Garage sale.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And it's all like $20 plus. Right. I've seen a couple that's like they have a bunch of junk and it's like $5 each, $30 minimum. So I'm like,
you gotta buy 6 of these pieces.
Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't listen to half of that, more than half of that. I wouldn't. You could pay me to take most of it. But there's one that I don't remember the name of the group, but it's pretty good. They got a lot of posts. They put a lot of articles and stuff up there, and I wish I could remember the website that it was pulled off of, but it was an article about bone music. I don't know if you are familiar with this.
Not familiar, no.
It goes by a couple of different names. It's called bone music. Some places it's called rib music, bone and rib music. But it kind of came out of. It started, from what I can tell, and what the article went on. And I read this article and I got really interested in it. I saw some pictures and the shit looked really cool. So I kind of did some digging into it, and it seems like it kind of started in the 1950s in the Soviet Union. So this is post World War II. Western music was outlawed.
Right.
In communist Russia. Mm-hmm. So the only artists, even if you're a Russian artist and I remember the one artist, but he was hugely popular before World War II broke out. And then after the war, he didn't return to Russia. So he wasn't a sympathizer for the Soviet cause. So his music was even outlawed in Russia. So all non-Russian music was outlawed. So there was a 19-year-old sound engineer. I'm going to butcher this guy's name because I'm terrible.
Russian names are hard.
So it Ruslan Boguslawski.
Okay.
As well
Sounds
is the way it looks to me, at least. So he was a 19-year-old sound engineer in Leningrad. So he built a recording lathe. Basically, it's a gramophone in reverse that he can use to create vinyl. But the problem was, in Russia after the war, you couldn't really get petroleum products. Right. So there was no vinyl. There was nothing to press the music with. And even though Western music was hugely popular in Russia, it was hugely popular in Russia prior to the war, it was illegal after the war. So, and vinyl smuggling was dangerous. There was heavy fines.
Imprisonment.
There was imprisonment. Yes, there was quite a few smugglers that went to prison, got out, got caught again, went back to prison. So it was expensive and really risky to be one of these smugglers, a music smuggler, if you want to call him that. So he was trying to figure out a way to
reproduce
the sound. And what he stumbles upon is he's a stack of discarded X-rays. So X-rays, I don't know, I'm assuming they're made differently now than what they were, 60 years ago. But at the time, because of the flammability of the product, go ahead and open your pop there, Ian. Yeah. It's okay.
I was trying to be discreet. So.
Yeah. So because of the flammability of the product at the time, in Russia, you're only allowed to keep X-rays for a year in storage. After that, they had to be destroyed.
Okay.
So he stumbles upon a stack of X-rays, and he realizes that he can replicate music onto these X-ray images.
Because of the thickness of the material, that the actual
So
photograph.
He takes this recording lathe and duplicates albums onto it. And if you see these things, they look fucking sweet, man. They look like it's an X-ray.
But it's shaped like a record.
Yeah, it's got a hole, in the middle, and obviously the outside of it's not a perfect circle. Some of them are crudely cut, but it looks pretty sweet. And it looks like there was many of these bootleggers eventually, but it looks like this guy kind of started the whole kind of underground music revolution in Russia.
Because it is also something that you could probably hide pretty easily to a degree if they came in and said, "Hey, we need to look at your stuff." It doesn't look like anything.
Yeah, because it's just an X-ray is what it is. But it was kind of cool. Like I was reading the article and it was kind of going on about how it was almost like modern day drug dealing. They said a lot of these albums, and they produced like 1 million of these things.
Right.
But they said a lot of these music deals would go down in like dark alleys and on like
they'd have to
street corners in the middle of the night, and it's kind of cool. But yeah, he was making these albums for 20 years, 20 plus years. He was eventually caught and convicted, ended up serving 5 years in prison. But he made hundreds of thousands of these bootleg albums. And you can get everything like old jazz. There's even some, you can get Elvis on these things, some Motown on there, because it was all the way through the, like mid 60s. You can probably get some Beatles on there, all sorts of stuff.
Imagine,
yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you'd ever heard of it before.
No, I've never heard of that. That is fascinating. I've heard of stories of underground bootlegging and stuff, especially in some countries where it wasn't allowed, but nothing to that degree.
Yeah. So yeah, if you Google bone music and kind of look at the images, they're pretty sweet. But
for a second there, I thought I was going to go to a point where he was like actually engraving it onto bones.
No, but unfortunately, a lot of the music that was created in this underground market in Russia, it's destroyed because gramophones at the time had these huge steel needles on them.
Right.
So you could listen to these things. They didn't last very long. Yeah. You 4 or 5, maybe 7, 8 listens, and it's destroyed.
Flammable too.
Yeah, Well, yeah, but it was more the needles destroying these things over time. But like I said, you got a couple plays out of it, and then it was gone.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's a fascinating topic. Really, should make a movie out of that. Someone should anyway.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's another. So in the article I was reading, it was telling a story about. Well, he wasn't telling a story, but it's a lot of the times you would walk up to one of these dealers and say, "Hey, do you have, say, Rock Around the Clock?" And the dealer didn't have it, but what he would say is, "Yeah, I got that," and he'd like go around the corner and like scratch out or take the name off of it and rewrite Rock Around the Clock on it, and then take it home. And you don't know any better. You've never heard it before. All you know is I've heard. There's talk of this song playing, in Europe or across Europe, and
right.
So you take this home, and it could be anything,
right.
but you don't know. You think it's Rock Around the Clock. You don't know.
Peggy Sue.
Yeah, it could be anything. So, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. Yeah, because you don't even know what the hell you're listening to.
Right. That's funny. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and you can actually get some of these. I was looking them up on eBay. Some of the pretty decent ones. They're expensive, but they're. $100, $150 for some of these, but it's like a piece of history. Every single, these guys could take, one Western album, and reproduce it 100 times. It's 100 different copies. It's each one is going to be, slightly different from the next one. So it's kind of cool. If you're able to find one, if you're at a antique shop or whatever, and you stumble across one, pick them up, man. It's like a piece of history.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I'm going to kind of keep my eye on it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to pay $150 for one, but
right.
But some of them are pretty cool looking.
And it's something you don't buy to listen to. You really just
no. Obviously, I would never listen to it.
Yeah.
But they said some of the ones are almost unlistenable.
Yeah, but just like you said, to have that piece of
history. Yeah, you're holding in your hands not only a unique version of music, you're also holding in your hands an X-ray of someone's body that's been dead for decades,
and kind of the heart and soul of what rock and roll is, and what modern music, rock and roll was, and what modern music at the time even was kind of a revolt against the establishment, and that's what that was. It was like, hey,
you're right.
You can't tell us we can't have this. We're going to have this anyway.
You're right.
So it's a lot of different dynamics there.
Now that I've droned on for the last 30 minutes, I guess we can get into the topic for the show.
No, that was fine because it's all part of the same thing, and hey. I learned something, so fuck it.
And that's kind of when I started reading it, I was like, man, I hope Ian hasn't heard of this stuff before, because that's gonna be a really crappy conversation if I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of bone music? And you're like, yeah, it's been around for 60 years. I've read all about it. And I'm like,
I haven't read about that one. So yeah, that's cool. Like I said, I learned something.
Music,
the audience doesn't like it. They're not paying us. So fuck
that's true. Music is one of those things. I could talk about music every day if I could.
Right.
All right, so let's get into our topic there, Ian. You kind of came up with this, so you want to do
we've had our conversations about whether rock is dead, and
episode 43. Go back and listen to it.
Yes, twice, please. And then there was more recently you had brought up because you kind of
Greta Van
Fleet, and we've talked about how we're, in a sense, they could potentially be something to hang our hopes on for the future of rock music. So, in listening to them and agreeing with that suggestion, I've kind of come across a few other bands that are kind of new and kind of also in the same vein of that older feeling rock music, where it's heavy guitars and it's power driven, and it's not love songs, it's not poppy in any way.
Real quick, I want to interrupt you. If you want to go back and listen to the episode where we talked about Greta Van Fleet, that was episode 57, so it was only a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. So anyway, I suggested that we, kind of cover some of these other bands, because instead of taking the hard line stance that rock is dead or on life support, as I think we came to the final conclusion with our discussion, maybe it's not so on life support as we thought. We're just because it was suggested to us that we weren't listening to the right kind of music.
Yeah. I was talking to a coworker that listens. Yeah. So he occasionally listens to our show, and he brought up the fact that rock isn't really dead. It's just harder to find it because it's not.
It's dead in the mainstream
from the early '60s until the late '90s, early 2000s. It was kind of popular music, so it was played everywhere. It's not played everywhere anymore.
Right.
It's harder to find, so you've got to actually dig to find some of this good music.
So I came across a handful of groups that I think qualify, and I should point out that some of them aren't as new as say Greta Van Fleet. Some of them have been around for about 10 years or more, maybe.
Or 30. For one of
well,
them.
one of them, I didn't realize. I think.
And we get to that. I'll kind of talk about that
because I don't even remember mentioning that band. But anyway, it was on my list. I'm sure. So
it was. So Ian emailed me a list of bands,
some bands to check out, and so yeah, this is not really. This is kind of more of a. I thought, in my way of thinking, was to acknowledge that, we've dug a little bit, and there is some hope for rock music.
We've adjusted our thinking a little bit.
Yeah, down the road. It's still. I think it's still on life support.
Yeah, but maybe it's not as bad as.
But it's not as bad as what we were
diagnosis
thinking.
Isn't terminal.
Exactly. Yeah, there's hope for the future.
All right, so
these are some of the groups that are.
You want to kind of run down your list?
Or
do you have your list? Ian?
I have a.
Do you need me to run down your list?
Well, I don't remember. I mean, some of the ones I have here.
Okay, can we go down in order that you sent them to me at least?
Sure, let's do that. Go ahead.
All right, so you started out with Wolf Mother.
Okay, perfect.
Now, granted, so just for podcast sake, we're not going to play any music.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. You can listen to the bands.
Right. I'll actually point out a couple key songs that I like.
Yeah, because we played music on our show before, and we got flagged on YouTube. And
and personally, I mean, I don't really care about that, but.
I know.
As far as making it sound good and being able to kind of talk over
I would like to be able to keep our show on YouTube. Because if we get flagged again or 2 or 3 more times, we lose our channel on YouTube.
Well, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. But anyway, one of the...
So Wolf Mother, real quick, before you get into it, they've been a band since 2004.
Okay. So that's granted, that's
newish.
That's newish.
Yeah.
I mean... I didn't really come across anything that's like Greta Van Fleet brand new, because they're like 3 years. They've been kind of popular. 3 years? Would you say?
Maybe. I mean, they're
2-3 years.
Okay, well, their full length debut album came out in November last, or October, November last year.
In the old days, that's how you determined the birth of a band. Was kind of like their first album came out in year X, so that's when they
Yeah, that's yeah. I got you.
But for them, we'll benefit of the doubt. We'll say 2 years then. Yeah. Okay. I didn't find any band that was that young, and from the sounds of it, even some of the bands I didn't even think were as old as that. But
speaking of young, their drummer is 19 years old.
Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. But as far as Wolf Mother goes, the first time I listened to them, the first song, I don't remember the very first song I listened to, but. It's weird. I got a strange, like, classic Black Sabbath vibe from it.
I could see that.
But then I've listened to a lot of their other stuff, and then it's not there. So it was like maybe just that song, or there's actually been a couple songs where I kind of got it. But
I wonder if it was Joker and the Thief, because I kind of got the same idea. Like
it might have been.
I really liked the intro to that song. Okay. I thought it was really a great beginning.
I don't know. It's kind of there.
I'm not a big fan of lead singer's voice. I'm going to say that.
Really? Because I don't. I mean, it's kind of an Ozzy-ish.
No,
but it's not. It's
so
not
there's
as nasally, but
the like.
I don't really have a problem with his voice. I think
I have a problem with a lot of these bands' singers, just because.
Which is strange,
and maybe it's just the sound of today, but they all kind of have that same typical rock voice, if you know what I mean. And it's like,
but isn't that what we're talking about? Kind of
no. It's back? Not. No, it's because it's not harkening back. It's a mid-2000s generic rock voice.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's they all kind of sound like the lead singer of Nickelback, kind of.
Well, I didn't quite get
that tone. Not necessarily
maybe
the same
from the
voice.
One band, but the music overpowers that for me for that other band.
Yeah, but musically,
You see what I'm talking about?
I really like them musically.
Yeah, because I mean, Wolf Mother especially, out of the groups, some of the groups I mentioned or I sent to you, it's a little harder edged. I think it's a little bit more. There's some elements of metal there in the songs that I listen to. Two songs that I really enjoyed, and I've listened to them multiple times: "Simple Life" and "Gypsy Caravan."
Were those? Were those
off the newest?
So Victorious, which is their newest album,
yep.
Which I thought was a really good album. I listened to most of it. Now, granted, these bands we're going to talk about, I just need to say up front, I didn't listen to a large section of
it. It's been hard for me to get,
because I'm
kind of hit and miss. But.
Yeah, so I've taken 5 to 8 songs and kind of went down a lot of their most played music on through Apple Music, and kind of tried to base my opinion off of songs off of multiple albums,
and that's
because as a band typically changes their music from album to album,
as they should.
Yes. So if you listen to just one album, I don't think you'll generally get an idea of their musical range. If you want to call it that. So, but yeah, Victorious I thought was a really good, just like straightforward kind of rock album.
Yeah, and to your point, I did kind of just focus more on the more recent albums by these bands because we are kind of looking at it as what is rock now.
Yeah.
So, most of these bands have albums that came out within like 2017, 2018. And actually, one band that's another one that's been around for a while, but they just released kind of an EP. I think there's 8 songs on it.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. I hope they release it on vinyl. I really do because I want to get it. But, so yeah, I kind of went the same way. I did listen to older stuff, but I really focused on the newest additions to their catalogs.
There was one band, and we'll talk about when we get there, but I liked some of their older stuff better than some of their new stuff.
I came across some of that too, but okay.
Which band were you talking about with the vinyl?
Oh, the Decemberists.
Okay, we'll get to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of liked the direction that some of Wolf Mother's music went.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't focus as much on the vocals and the lyrics or the singing, because there's types of singing it wasn't bad. It wasn't like it put me off.
Right.
It just kind of had that generic kind of rock sound.
Okay.
Generic mid 2000s rock sound, I want to say.
Okay.
And not all the bands we're going to talk about had that same problem.
Right.
But, the next one I had on there was, the next one you had, because this is your list.
This is my list, yeah.
The next one was Black Pistol Fire.
And this is the one that I've actually listened to the most. I think I've listened to almost all their albums over the course of, say, the last couple of weeks.
So they're a newer band. They formed in 2000.
And
2011.
I think they have 3 or 4 albums.
They do, yeah, something like that.
4 albums. And I think I've listened to at least a good chunk of all of their albums. But again, I went with their newest album for most of their...
Which is Deadbeat Graffiti.
Yes.
Which was released in 2017.
Yep. And honestly, I don't like it as much as I like their older stuff.
Okay.
So, and that's kind of where I got with that. But a lot of their older stuff, I do not like Southern rock. I'm not a Skynyrd fan.
Yeah.
I mean, and even the Eagles, you could argue, are kind of Southern rock. I do not like...
Eagles are California rock, but...
With a Southern-ish sound. It just, I don't like it. I just don't like it. But I get elements of it from these guys, but it's more of an undertone rather than a driving force for the rock.
I didn't get a really big Southern.
Maybe some of their earlier stuff.
I definitely got, especially with Deadbeat,
like a bluesy sound.
Yeah, with Deadbeat Graffiti, I definitely got like a blues rock sound.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think that's really like Southern. Southern rock is a little different.
It can come off as Southern because I like blues rock. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I wouldn't like Zeppelin or early Sabbath.
Zeppelin is a great blues rock kind of band.
And that's kind of what I was going with.
And
them.
I definitely got like a 70s vibe from some of their music that they had, but they still had that like a solid modern rock sound.
Do you think that comes from the way that music's just recorded today?
No, because there's not a lot of bands that have that sound.
Okay. Well, I kind of, maybe I was looking at it just through the prism of looking for bands that kind of can work in my mind in both eras.
Yeah.
Like they're working now, obviously.
Yeah.
But would they work, say, 1972 or 1973?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
If they were, if this band had come up in 1973, would would these songs hold up then as they do now? That's kind of how I approached Greta Van Fleet. And it does. You listen to those songs and you think, okay, if these guys were recording in 1968 and 69 this album,
it would be just as popular.
It would probably be just as popular,
if not even more popular,
and maybe even
because there's a lot of backlash against Greta Van Fleet because everyone says they
sound too much like other bands,
or they sound like Led Zeppelin, and they
do
some of their songs they do, but a lot of the songs they don't.
Right.
You know, and Led Zeppelin there's a lot of plagiarism charges thrown at Led Zeppelin, which is the ironic thing.
Well, mainly for Stairway to Heaven, but let's look at it a bit more esoterically. The shit that Greta Van Fleet's getting for Zeppelin should have been getting from, say, black blues artists in America.
Yes.
Because what they were doing was they were taking what was traditionally black man's music, specifically American black music, and basically funneling it through white middle-class Britain, you know? So,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the same, as I said, esoteric argument could be made on both ends. So,
and that's the kind of thing, and if you're... So the Grammys were last week or the week before?
I guess. I don't pay any attention to that. I know they won.
They won for Best Rock Album.
Okay. Not New Rock Album, just Rock Album? Best Rock.
Yeah, Best Rock
cool.
Album.
Fair enough.
But some of the bands that were up for it shouldn't really be in a rock category. But anyway, that's beside the point. So there was a lot of that. The following week after the Grammys, I know the Detroit News or Free Press, whoever it was, had posted on Facebook a couple of articles about them winning, and it was like hundreds and hundreds. I'm talking over 200 or 300 comments on these threads.
How much they sound like Zeppelin?
About how shitty they are, and this is terrible music. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Well, why can't you just sit down and appreciate? Because
everything's so disposable.
Because
now.
everyone all those negative comments were coming from, well, you know, they're just a Led Zeppelin cover band, and I'm a Led Zeppelin fan, and you know they're just regurgitating stuff from 40 years ago, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. What they are doing right now, what Greta Van Fleet, if you're a classic rock fan, you know, and you're a Led Zeppelin fan, if you're a Pink Floyd fan, if you're any of those bands, even, you know, Aerosmith was doing some of it in the early to mid 70s. If you're a fan of that like era of rock music,
almost every band,
and you look at what Greta Van Fleet's doing now, and you look and say, well, you know, that's just bullshit. You know, it's nothing new. It's nothing that I haven't heard before. If you look at what the rest of, or a large percentage of the rock industry is right now, it's nowhere close to what Greta Van Fleet's doing.
It's kind of like standing out from the crowd by doing something that's essentially been done before, but no one else is doing it. So you're still standing out.
If it's so damn easy, why isn't someone else doing it?
Yeah, that would be my argument. You know, these people, I would point out that the majority of those people who posted on that probably have heard maybe one or two songs tops.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or none at all, and just going off of what they've heard from other people.
Yep.
And like you said, no one sits and listens and appreciates music anymore. I mean, just look at pop music. Take pop music now and look at pop music in the 80s. I'm not going to comment on what I think is the quality of the two, but if you look at what pop music was in the 80s relative to today, there was more effort, not just on the part of the artists, but on the part of the audience. There was still a depth to the pop music back then.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Because audiences don't want to do any of the work.
Yeah.
It's easy to have just a hook, and that's it. They like the hook.
Yeah. That's true.
So just give them
Absolutely
a hook.
True.
Just give them a hook. Whereas music back, even like I said, even pop music in the 80s and even the 70s, it was more than that. There was still depth to it. Even though it was bubblegum, it was high
substance.
Quality bubblegum. Yeah. You know.
But what I'll say real quick on Greta Van Fleet, you know, if you're someone listening to this show and you're one of those people that are like, oh, they're just regurgitating Led Zeppelin, go on any of your streaming services and click on, you know, Anthem of the Peaceful Army, which is their newest album.
Yep. And listen to the whole thing.
Well, not even the whole thing. Just listen to the song Anthem. it's nothing like
it's
nothing like Led Zeppelin. It's a fantastic song. It's a slower song, but it's definitely it's you don't hear things like that today out of modern rock bands, and that's why, and that's kind of why I was kind of. I looked them up just because they were on Saturday Night Live. I've heard of them. Obviously they're from Michigan, so I've heard of them before. But I was I wasn't like blown away by their music because some of it's kind of basic. But then again, they're 20 years old.
Yeah, and then,
they're 19,
when you
20-year-old
say
kids.
basic, you and I, what's basic to us is like high end for a lot of people. So, because our tastes tend to be more. Well, I hate to use the word progressive because it's used for a specific subgenre, but overall, the music we listen to, for example, before we started recording, we're listening to Smashing Pumpkins. That's a progressive album.
Oh yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
1995. It's progressive, but it's still rock. You know, so our tastes are a little bit more refined. I don't want to sound pretentious about it, but that's when you say basic, it's basic just in the sense, like you said, they're young. But they're still learning their craft, and they're doing it well.
And that's kind of the point I was getting at. Take any band, take any popular band out there, and they probably weren't recording. They probably didn't record or release a lot of music when they were 19, 20, 21 years old. But if you're able to go back and listen to some of their early recordings, they're probably not even as far as advanced as what Greta Van Fleet's doing right now at that same age.
And I would agree with that. I mean,
the music
even Zeppelin in 1968, before they released their first album, was probably slightly below where Greta Van Fleet is now.
Because they're doing things that people, the bands that are 4, 5, 6 years more seasoned than them are doing, or capable of doing. And that's kind of where that kind of really drew me into their music was, the potential that this band has.
And I just think it's good music. It sounds good.
It is good music.
They've got good songs. They're well performed. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really all you need. Good songs. It doesn't have to be anything special. It doesn't have to be progressive in any way. It doesn't have to break the mold.
Yeah.
Just give us a good fucking song. That's all I ask for, and then they do. For what it's worth, they do. And Black Pistol Fire is another band I really like their music.
I thought they were good. I thought they were good.
They're out of the groups that I picked, aside from the Decemberists, because I've liked them for a long time. But out of the groups that I came across in all the searching, Black Pistol Fire is at the top of my list. So what's the next on the? Check them out. I would say instead of looking at their newest album, go back, look at their first and second album, because I think the music's a little bit. There's some good stuff going on there.
Some variation of the music.
Yeah, it's some good stuff.
The next one on your list, this is Jack White's band. How do you say this name? The Raconteurs?
Raconteurs, yeah.
So they were formed in 2005.
Okay.
But they haven't released anything.
They just released
hold on.
Okay.
Let me finish what I was saying there, Chucklehead. So they haven't released anything other than they released a 2-song EP in 2018, which is probably what you're talking about. And then they had 3 singles, I think, the year or 2 before that. But outside of those 5 songs, they haven't released anything since 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
But
they're still considered an active band, and
yeah, I know.
And it is slightly different than Jack White's other stuff.
It is,
and
slightly.
I still like it. It's still more rock. I guess we can probably cover Jack White in general right now. Jack White is keeping rock alive in that classical sense. It has been since, say, 1999 with the White Stripes. He's a strong proponent for vinyl. He only records on analog tape.
Yep.
So his whole method is old school.
And I think that's a better sound because of it.
And it does have a better sound because, let's face it, what he was doing with the White Stripes was very simple stuff.
It was.
He made it sound better than simple. He made it sound more complicated, but it was just simple guitar, bass, singing, and that's it, and drums. That's it. So taking that simplicity and making it sound good, and still maintaining kind of a throwback to where he came from, because he's a Detroit guy.
Yeah.
Look at the rock that came out of Detroit. The MC5, Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop. Then, not even rock, but just Motown, which is a variation of rock.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, you can't forget Suicide Machines.
Oh, I didn't know they were from Detroit.
Yeah, they're from Detroit. Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
You know, and Greta Van Fleet, they're from Frankenmuth, which is
far away from Detroit.
Well, in more ways than just miles, too.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
It's still considered slower-ish Michigan. So
but yeah, I liked a lot of the music I heard from them. I really liked the 2-song EP they released last year. I thought that was really good. It didn't sound very. I mean, it sounds a lot like a lot of other Jack White projects. Though.
And he's there. Yeah, his influence is there.
Definitely.
And granted,
and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
I liked what I heard from them.
I threw that in there because I thought it would be a way to kind of connect to the White Stripes because they were an older band, and Jack White's even his solo career is, 2005.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
we're going back more than 10 years, and I thought, this is a way I can kind of connect it. Because there's another band he's in called the Dead Weather, and I don't really like that music as much.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I liked what they were doing. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's definitely a band worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you're a fan of Jack White, you probably already checked him out. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
But if you're not a fan of Jack White, I would say listen to the White Stripes album Elephant, Icky Thump, Icky Thump, which is actually my favorite of the White Stripes, and Blunderbuss, Jack White's first solo album. You listen to those 3 albums, I guarantee you'll be a White Stripes Jack White fan.
Elephant's the only one I've got on vinyl.
I don't have Elephant. I have their first album, self-titled. I have Blunderbuss. And that's it. I still haven't even got Icky Thump, which is my favorite White Stripes album by far. But that was their last one. That was the last White Stripes. But if you listen to those 3 albums, and you can find them on iTunes, all over. They're all over the place. Mm-hmm. Listen to those 3 albums, you'll be hooked, guaranteed.
So the next band you got on the list is a band I wasn't all that thrilled about.
Okay.
Which was Ghost.
I think I specifically pointed to one song that you should listen to. Did you listen to that song?
I don't know.
Okay.
So they were formed in Sweden in 2008.
And they're kind of a gimmicky band.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the appeal of a band like this in today's music scene. You're awfully coffee tonight.
I've been fighting this cough since I was sick last month.
Since you were 15. But, I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's bands like this that are kind of dragging down rock in the 21st century.
See, I kind of see this band as an offshoot of what was going on in the late 70s and early 80s anyway. Yeah. There is really no difference between Ghost and Merciful Fate, circa 1979.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. King Diamond was the lead singer.
They're definitely more metal than rock.
A little bit more metal, but it's still more rock than metal, I think. But it's that offshoot, because if you look at what rock was, like I said, say 79 to 84, it was kind of going through a lot of changes, but your basic was still there. Yeah. You still had your Ozzy, which was still Sabbath. You had your Alice. You had your more poppy-ish kind of rock, but Kansas, The Police. There was a place for Merciful Fate / King Diamond.
Yeah.
In that, whether you liked it or not, it's there. It's still a part of that time period, that era of rock music, and it really even more so came to the forefront with the more metal stuff of Metallica. Metallica was heavily influenced by both Sabbath and Merciful Fate.
And Misfits.
And Misfits, exactly. It's kind of the same thing. It's the place that I see Ghost in modern rock is the same place that Misfits
I guess I could see
and
that.
Merciful Fate had in the 70s and 80s.
I could definitely say that I liked, I don't remember the name of the album. It was the album that they released in 2015.
Okay.
I liked that album a lot more than the newest album.
And see, the newest one has the one song that I really enjoy, and I've listened to
and I only listened to a couple of songs off. I only listened to 3 or 4 songs off each album, so I might not have listened to the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it was one song that I really.
I've never been a big metal fan though. So.
This song's not metal though. The one I recommended was kind of more straightforward rock.
Well, maybe I'll listen to it later.
Yeah, I think it's called Rats.
Okay,
but
I'll check it out.
Give that one a whirl. I knew that was kind of a
stretch.
A stretch, but I wanted to throw it in there because, like I said, I think Ghost can have a place in what we're talking about.
Yeah.
In the same sense that, say, Misfits or Merciful Fate.
I got you.
Kind of had a place.
The next one you had on your list was the Lumineers.
Yeah, they're a bit more folky.
They're formed in 2002. Yeah, I definitely got more of a folk rock sound from them.
But I think they also have to have a place in this modern era, and it's beyond the Mumford and Son folk song.
And I did. I liked some of the stuff I listened to. I definitely liked Cleopatra, which was released in 2016.
Yep.
And it's definitely something I could see checking out again in the future. Next time they release something, I'll probably check it out.
The song that stuck out for me, and that's on the Cleopatra album, was "Sick in the Head."
Okay,
that one kind of stuck out. But I've kind of always had a soft spot for folky rock too. Yeah. Anyway, Cat Stevens, Jim Croce, that kind of thing. But even though they don't have the roaring guitars, I still find them to be rock in a sense.
Because rock is a big.
It's an umbrella. We've said
it's an umbrella term. We've talked about
So, I mean, the Lumineers again. I put them on there, but because to me they still they're unique enough, but fit in the folk rock kind of area, and still work. For
the next one you had on there was Animals as Leaders.
This one was a bit of a stretch, mainly because they have a great following, but they would never hit the mainstream. Did you listen to them?
I did.
And I'm going to guess you probably didn't like them.
I thought they had a really cool sound. So they were formed in 2008, so they're kind of a newer band.
And they're members from other big bands.
Yeah. I thought they had a cool sound. It's very different than a lot of the stuff you hear today, at least mainstream stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I thought some of their tracks would be good to have on like in the background if you were doing something.
Did you understand? Because I think I put in the note that there was an element of what jazz used to be, a certain element of improvisation.
Yes. And I kind of got that.
And a lot of but an acid side of that, like an acid jazz.
It's not that I would like take time out of my day to sit down and listen to,
right?
But it wasn't. It was definitely interesting. Yeah. I'm someone that I can sit down and appreciate the artistry of just about anything. I will admit it, I have a Justin Bieber album on vinyl.
Right.
I think it's his last album that he released. There's some good music on there. I can appreciate the musical side of it, the artistry of it. I can definitely see some of the stuff I listened to from this band, and I can appreciate the artistry of it.
Right. Yeah, because I think it was founded by the main guy. He's the bass player.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just weird. It's like I said, it's kind of a heavy metal jazz-ish kind of thing going on, but very fast. It's fast jazz. It's fast bass. It's fast drums. It's horns. It's a lot of things going on there. And I really, like you said, it's not something you could probably sit down and relax to.
Yeah.
But I've on numerous occasions when there wasn't anything I really wanted to listen to, musically or podcast wise, just driving to work, I'm like, I can throw these guys on
absolutely.
because it's like, you can sit there and analyze it.
You can kind of vibe to it and kind of still do whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So that was why I threw them because
I definitely see that.
They're doing something again that's, you can say it's like this over here from the 60s or whatever, but it's new enough to say this works. This works
it
now.
Does.
And
I got you.
Let's see where they go forward, where it pulls things forward. So
the next one on your list, I think you already mentioned them, was the Decemberists.
Yes.
Which is they're formed in 2000. I got kind of like an REM kind of sound.
Some of their stuff, yes, but there's
definitely
a lot of
slower like folk rock sound.
Yeah. They have a tendency. I'd say there's a more of a theatrical theme to their songs.
Yep.
In fact, even some of their albums, I would go as far as to say are kind of concept albums. To a point. I just like them because it's real instruments. Again, it's kind of a folky sound. I like the way the lyrics work. They're kind of, I don't know, there's an old world sound to the way the lyrics function.
I gotcha. Yeah, I definitely see that.
And on their album, The Crane Wife, they have a song that's 12 minutes long. So
is that their...
That's probably their most popular album.
Is that their newest album?
No, The Crane Wife was like 2006.
Because I don't remember the name of it, but their newest album, which was released in 2018, I thought was pretty good.
That's the one I was telling you about, the EP. That's like 8 songs.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Oh, my God. I didn't even know it came out. I came across it when I was doing this research just the other day, and I listened to the whole thing 3 times.
Yeah, they definitely have some songs out that I could listen to again. Yeah. Absolutely.
The very first brand new vinyl I bought as a part of my new collection was The Crane Wife by Decemberists.
All right.
So, but yeah, they're, like I said, they're not doing anything, again, very different, but they're different enough from the Lumineers. They're folky, but you can hear the Lumineers and you can hear the Decemberists and know you're listening to 2 different bands. Much like back in the day when you could listen to Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith and know you were listening to 2 different bands.
Yeah.
You know, or Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper. You knew they were different. There's you weren't just replicating what the last guy who had a big hit did.
Yeah.
You know,
I got you.
So Decemberists is like way up there for me. I would even go as far as to say they're probably my top 10 favorite bands.
Some of their stuff was pretty. I like some of it. I wasn't a huge fan.
Right.
I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the bands that you sent me, but you know, some of them.
But you can understand where I was kind of going with this newer.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I almost wanted to call this episode like Class of 18.
Yeah.
You know where rock is right
now. Yeah.
Or you know in this recent era.
Gotcha. The next one you had on your list, which was interesting, was Monks of Doom.
Okay.
Which is the band. So originally they formed in 1986.
Okay.
They broke up in 1993 though, and didn't reform again until all the members came back, but they reformed in 2003.
Okay, and that might be why I put them on there because I think I only listened to a few of those tracks anyway.
I kind of dig their sound.
Yeah.
It was very psychedelic.
Metalish,
old Pink Floyd kind of sound.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different band then. Oh, I think I am thinking of. I don't think maybe that's. I may have put them on by accident then. I think it was. No, I think I did. I think I messed up with that.
No, so okay.
But hey, if they vibe for you, that's cool.
It was interesting. Most of the songs, it seems like. Granted, like I said before, I only listened to 5 or 8 of their songs or whatever it was.
Right.
So most of the songs I listened to were instrumental tracks.
Oh, okay. Then that's definitely I put the wrong band on there. I'm sorry. But anyway.
But I'm not sure if that's all of their music is like that. But it was, yeah, I got like old psychedelic Pink Floyd. It was an interesting kind of sound.
Okay. Well, now I need to go back and revisit that because obviously, like I said, I think I put the wrong band on there for you. But
well, since you didn't listen, we'll just move on to the next one. The next one that you had on your list was the Sheepdogs.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, so they formed in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're a newer band.
Right.
You know, it's another band that has that kind of classic, rock sound from the 70s.
Yeah. I almost it's hard to argue or hard to pinpoint like southern rock versus blues rock ish kind of. Almost folk rock to some degree. There's a couple of songs.
Yeah, there was definitely more of a southern rock guitar sound.
Yeah,
but they used that. When you listen to a lot of like classic rock in the '70s, they had a lot of them had that like 3-piece harmony with a really strong guitar sound, and that's definitely the Sheepdogs. They kind of go down that path. Mm-hmm. They got that 3-piece harmony. Like I said, they got the southern rock guitar sound. It's definitely a band I could. Like I said before with another one, it's something I probably wouldn't go out of my way to listen to.
Right.
But they definitely have some music that's definitely worth checking out. They got some pretty decent songs.
Okay. I guess the band I was actually trying to put on there was I don't know why I did Monks of Doom. I wanted to put on Band of Skulls.
Oh, that's on there too.
I did put them on. Okay, then I don't know where I came up with that one then, because I don't think I actually even listened to them.
Oh, well, do you have anything to add to Sheepdogs?
No. It was just kind of another.
Gotcha.
You know.
The next one you had on your list, which was the Shins, which formed in 1997, which is actually a side project from the band Flake. Which I've heard of them before, but I've never listened to either.
The Shins I've heard of. To me, again, it's with that one, it's more of like an REM indie kind of sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
they had that sound that's very, I don't want the word generic to sound bad,
right?
But they've got that kind of generic indie folk rock sound that was really popular, in like the early 2000s.
I was even saying the early 90s, going back to early REM, early Counting Crows.
When you say like college radio rock, I think of like
Counting Crows wouldn't exist.
Well, I was thinking like
college radio. REM wouldn't exist without.
I was thinking
radio.
like Gin Blossoms. That kind of college rock.
I guess to some degree, yeah.
But they're more. I think they've got more of like a 2000s kind of indie rock sound.
Okay, the indie bleeds through no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, they're a decent band. They got a couple of decent songs. They're a little too folky for me, though.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be a theme because I prefer. I like a good hard rock sound. I really do. I like thrashing guitars. But I like a good acoustic guitar a lot too. So
the band I compared them to, which is actually a good kind of comparison for the college rock sound, was Weezer. They've got some songs. They've got some songs that sound like they could be Weezer songs.
Okay. Well, see, when you say college radio, I think you're thinking like Dave Matthews, like frat rock.
Yes.
When I say college radio, I'm talking about independent college radio.
No, I think like frat rock is what I'm talking about.
When I say college radio, I'm talking like where REM, Counting Crows, those types of bands got their start.
I'm talking like Hootie and the Blowfish.
Yeah, no, that's frat rock.
But that's still,
not college rock.
That's still kind of that indie folk rock kind of sound.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, we diminish Hootie and the Blowfish and Gin Blossoms, but actually, Gin Blossoms have a lot of good songs.
Yeah, they do. Uh-huh.
And honestly, even Hootie and the Blowfish, for what it's worth, I dig a lot of their songs.
Yeah,
too.
they got some good music.
I would never own any of their stuff. I would own Gin Blossom stuff. I did own. I owned.
Hate Jealousy, whatever that album was.
Yeah, New Miserable Life or something it was called, I think. And actually, I've listened to them more recently on Spotify. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I dig that, but I think you and I are not talking about the same thing. When I say independent college radio,
I got you.
I'm talking like. Some long-haired hippie dude sitting in a booth in the college radio station, and he's playing shit that you're not.
No one's ever heard of, and I'm talking about like
you're talking about
frat rock.
Yeah, Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah,
which Dave Matthews Band has some good songs too.
Yeah,
there's a YouTube video out. It might be a professional video. It's professionally shot, and it's Dave Matthews and another guitarist, and they're both acoustic, and they're playing, and they're like doing this weird dueling thing. It blew my mind the first time I saw it. Especially
I think I've seen it before.
Because when you think of Dave Matthews, you think of that "Crash Into Me" song or whatever.
Yeah.
But this was that blew my mind. So you very rarely find me criticizing anything like Dave Matthews. But anyway, so I guess the two Eagles of Death Metal and.
Well, the next one we had on the list was Them Crooked Vultures.
Oh, well, let's mention them because that's like a little super group.
Yeah, so it's the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age. Yep. It was Dave Grohl on drums from Nirvana and Foo Fighters fame. And then, interestingly enough, and I didn't know this, it was John Paul Jones on bass from Led Zeppelin.
From Led Zeppelin, yeah. That's kind of, it's two different eras. And arguably, you could even say it's three different eras.
Oh, yeah.
Because Dave Grohl goes back to
three very different sounds.
Yeah, and Dave Grohl kind of he sums up the center of it. John Paul Jones, and then the dude from Queens of the Stone Age, which even though they're
how do you say? Is his last name Home? Is that how you say it? HOMME?
I don't know.
Josh Home, I guess, but it was listening to. I wasn't really fond of a lot of their stuff. They haven't done any. They haven't released anything outside of their 2009 debut.
And I wasn't blown away either. I just thought it was really cool.
They had a couple of okay songs, and I can see, like, listening to a couple of the tracks, you can see some of that, like, Zeppelin influence on it. So I thought that was kind of cool, but, you know, obviously, you know, it doesn't have a Zeppelin sound at all.
No, not at all.
But it's just like
it's there though.
It's definitely there. It's definitely there.
You know, a quarter of that quartet is there.
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed by it though.
No, it wasn't anything that blew me away, but it was just the idea. Like I said, it kind of summed up arguably three separate, very eras of rock.
Yeah.
I mean, we could even arguably put Foo Fighters on our list. Even though they've been around for a long
30 years.
Well, not really. Foo Fighters
25 years.
25 years, yeah. But, you know, they were still doing what rock was.
I think it's been more than 25 years, actually, but I don't know.
Well, no, because Cobain's only been dead 25 years this April.
Yeah.
So
they formed right after, not too long after he died.
Right, it wasn't too long. It was like maybe 2 years or something.
So the next one you got on your list is Eagles of Death Metal.
And we can kind of sum them together with Queens of the Stone Age.
Those are the next two bands we had on the list.
And they can kind of
and actually
similar
Eagles of Death Metal is actually a side project from the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age, which Queens of the Stone Age they formed in '97. Eagles of Death Metal he's put together in '98. So they're kind of right around the same time.
Yeah.
And Eagles of Death Metal. You know, it's got definitely has a heavier guitar sound,
right?
But a lot of the lyrics, at least the songs I listen to, no. On a side note, I'm a Hum fan.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of
abstract
songs that have very strange lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to the left where up is down, now stands a zebra made of shapes of me. It's silver in the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, so it makes no sense, but. They kind of have that. There's like a strange, bordering on kind of dumb or nonsensical lyrics to a lot of their songs that I just don't think worked.
That appeals to me though.
Yeah?
I mean, even not just nonsensical, but just out there, kind of abstract. Or there's a song by the band Sordid Humor. It's called "The Hat Song."
Yeah.
And the second verse is. I thought I was Batman, come to save your life. That's not what happened. Better luck next time. I mean, it's just, there's a weirdness to it.
Yeah.
Because the chorus is, there's a hat on my head. There's a rat on my head. I mean,
I got it. It just, I don't know.
I dig that.
Some of the stuff from Eagles of Death Metal, it was almost like, past nonsensical and abstract. It was almost like
they were going out of their way to
dumb.
Be weird?
Yes,
okay.
It's very kind of forced. At least
have to listen to it again.
Now, granted, it was a very small sample. I listened to maybe 5 or 6 songs,
right.
So it wasn't a whole lot I listened to. But I kind of picked a lot of their most popular songs, and I was like,
with them, and not so much with Queens of the Stone Age, but with them for sure. There's a certain I think there's a humor there that isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
In the same sense that, say, people might not have understood the humor that was going on with early Genesis.
Okay, yeah,
where
I get that.
Peter Gabriel has a giant.
Yeah, Peter Gabriel is fucking weird.
Yeah, and it's weird. And what's funny is he was so weird then, but then he became so normal when he went solo.
Yes.
But yeah, when he had a giant anus on the stage that he would push himself out of as like a hemorrhoid to sing a song.
Yeah.
There's a certain weird humor to that.
I get that.
It doesn't translate to everybody.
I get that.
And it may not even translate to me. I just like the idea that it's different.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know, maybe, and it might just be his voice too. I've got it because that's kind of my issue with Queens of the Stone Age was I'm not a big fan of his singing style.
Isn't yeah? I can understand that.
I mean, they've got Queens of the Stone Age. They've got a much larger catalog compared to other bands that are reviewed.
And they've had radio play and they've been more mainstream.
Yeah, so it's maybe a little more difficult to get an accurate picture kind of their overall sound. Because like I said before, with most bands, it changes from album to album. But it definitely has a little more of the like traditional late 90s, early 2000s kind of rock sound to it. Kind of a little bit more straightforward kind of rock.
And I agree with that, but I thought to some degree they transcended the Three Doors Down / Nickelback mud.
Yeah.
Puddle of Mud.
Yeah, I
they
get
transcended that. That's why I dig them, because arguably Three Doors Down could have been on this list if they
weren't so shitty
live. Well, shitty live, first of all. Second of all, if their second album wasn't just, hey, we had a hit song over here, it was kind of a rock ballad, so let's just do a whole fucking album of rock ballads.
Exactly. Yeah, I got you.
You know, if their second album had been an improvement on their first, which their first album was actually fairly decent. I hate to say it, but their first album was decent.
It was okay.
I think Queens of the Stone Age transcends that, because they knew how to create new ways of saying whatever it is they're trying to say and doing it. So
some of their early stuff definitely had like an edgier kind of rock sound to it that I dug. But then again, it was kind of also at the same time late 90s kind of sound, so it was kind of typical then. But I mean, they definitely had some decent songs. It's probably nothing I would like go out of my way to put on a playlist or anything like that. But it was okay.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I mean, there wasn't going to be any of these bands that are
transcendent.
Yeah. I mean, I would even argue that maybe Greta Van Fleet is the closest thing to that, but for new rock. But none of these bands are there yet.
No.
I mean, even the ones that have been around for 10 years. It's the old quote from Ozzy. I still haven't made my Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
To some people you hear that in Sgt. Pepper, but it's the idea of Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, I get it.
It's that one grand album that everyone will always remember that stands out. So none of these bands have done their Sgt. Pepper yet.
Yeah.
But these are the bands that I think have the potential to maybe one day do a Sgt. Pepper.
So you had one more band on your list, and that was Band of Skulls.
Oh, I did. Okay, I did have them. They're a bit more hard rock.
They are, and they formed in 2004, so they're kind of a newer band. Last 15 years. Yeah, it definitely has a bluesy rock kind of unique sound with a heavier guitar.
And I thought I enjoyed some of it. Kind of more of a Sabbathy sound with the guitar.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Absolutely. I definitely see that.
Yeah. So I dig that. I mean, it's the guitar, it's the drums. When it comes to rock, I mean, these are staples. It doesn't have to be there.
Oops, sorry guys.
It doesn't have to be there, but it definitely helps, to have a good heavy guitar riff. And I miss the days of the old guitar solos.
Oh yeah,
because even some of these bands, Greta Van Fleet has a couple.
Oh,
they're not mind blowing guitar solos.
If you go on, they've got if you go on YouTube, Greta Van Fleet has I don't remember what concert it's from, but they've got a full hour and a half set on
Professionally Shot.
Yeah, it is. I think it's got multiple angles and stuff, but I don't remember what song it was. But they've got it's 15 minutes long.
Right.
And it's got a long guitar solo in it. It's got a long drum solo in it. It's like the kind of the classic rock kind of thing. It's pretty cool to watch.
Well, and it's funny because it's amazing what a guitar can do for it. I mean, there's the old saying, everyone's a fucking guitar player.
Yeah, well, pretty
which
much.
is true, but not everyone's a good guitar player, first and foremost. And it's amazing what even one song by a band with a really good guitar solo can do for you.
Yeah.
For example, Jefferson Starship. They have one good song, and you know why that fucking song is so good is because it's got a fantastic guitar solo.
Yep.
And that's it. I've tried listening. I'm like, oh wow, Jefferson Starship's actually cool. No, they have one good fucking song, and that guitar solo, and it's very short. It's not even that long, but it's just so sweet, and it just,
Yeah, if
the song's Jane by Jefferson Starship, if anyone's asking. So.
If you're on YouTube and you check out that concert, it's the I think Edge of Darkness is the name of the song.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. That's
a good song anyway.
It is. It is a good song. But yeah, I mean that's all I had for
yeah.
Do you have anything to add for?
No,
I thought
I was worried that I put the Vines on there.
I do have one band I'm gonna mention.
Okay, I was gonna put the Vines on there, and I was afraid that I did because I hadn't listened to them. But it was a band I figured, I'll just go and listen to them, and then we can talk about them.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I didn't put them on there because I never got around to listening to them.
So what I did was, before we started recording, I was like, I'd kind of finished going through these bands and stuff earlier today, and I got on my Apple Music app. I clicked on Greta Van Fleet, and at the bottom it has a list of similar artists. I just clicked on the first one. I heard of them before. They're called the Struts.
I've heard the name.
I'd never listened to them before. But they're an English band. They formed in 2012. It definitely has like a Queenish sound to it.
Ooh, okay.
I would kind of stylistically say it's like a cross between Queen and, do you know the band Fun?
No, I don't think so.
Well, but they're like a mid 2000s kind of rock band.
Okay.
At least I think it was their name. But anyway, it was like a cross between them, if you can kind of imagine that sound. And the lead singer has that like kind of 70s iconic rock power voice.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely check them out.
The
Struts. They're pretty good.
I'm gonna do that right now.
I wasn't like blown away by what I'd listened to, but then again,
and none of this.
I only listened to 2 or 3 of their songs, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty good. And then I got sidetracked doing something else. So, so yeah, definitely check them out.
They definitely got that 70s look.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they just released a new album, 2018.
Yeah.
I'm officially following them. I will listen to them. But I mean, this whole show kind of came out from just a mixture of things. It was the suggestions we got from our one of our listeners that we maybe weren't digging deep enough. It was you bringing up Greta Van Fleet, giving us a little bit of hope for rock, and then just kind of exploring some of the like other bands that were kind of maybe in the same genre or in the same group. And like I said, I even considered giving you the suggestion of calling this Class of 2018, just because I think these bands kind of maybe give us a good view of what rock music is right now.
Yeah, I got you. I don't know. Yeah, I was definitely interested.
At the very least, we found some music that we had never heard before.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's always a good thing. Go out there, and I hate it that people listen to the same like 4 bands. I've given you shit for years about it,
which obviously isn't true.
No, it's not. And in the last 10 years, Ian, you've branched out a lot.
Yeah, maybe more so than I used to. Sure.
I think streaming services make that a lot easier to do.
They do.
But I've had conversations with people that will list like 3 or 4 kind of generic bands, and that's kind of all they listen to, and and then they want to kind of try to judge other music, and it's like, well, maybe branch out and try to experience other music and try to expand your taste. I mean, listen to which one I listen to. Listen to whatever you like. But at least, I mean, I try to listen to as much stuff as I listen to, as I can. Every week, I'm trying to find new and interesting music. But I don't know. And
I'm amazed at how much old stuff I found in the last 10 years that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, absolutely.
Or songs by artists that I was well aware of, but
never heard
the song before. And I'm getting to that point in my life. I mean, I'm now, according to you, well into my 40s.
Yeah, you're gonna be 41 here pretty soon.
In a week and a half.
Yeah, I know. Old bastard.
Yeah, I'm an old bastard. But anyway, actually, by the time this is released, it'll be less than a week. But
that's true.
I've come to realize that it's not about. I mean, obviously, we're setting our taste. We're setting in what we view as good versus not good. But that doesn't mean that we can't, like you kind of pointed out, you can't find some diamond in the rough here and there. And not only that, but there's, even in 41 years, there's so much that I still haven't found or experienced that either hasn't come out yet, or, like I said, I've given the Rolling Stones shit for decades.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, I just said, you know what? I have not listened to enough Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've got a fairly large catalog of radio hits, so we've heard a lot. But there's also a shit ton of shit we've never heard before.
Oh, the deep cuts.
The deep cuts. And there's probably 5 times more deep cuts than there are radio hits.
Oh, of course.
And it really kind of came from the fact that I just on a whim, I listened to their newest album, which I think was 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Black and Blue, I think is what it's called. And it's a good fucking album for a bunch of 70-something-year-old men. It's kind of old school blues rock, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me give it a chance. And I've heard songs by the Rolling Stones I never even heard before, never knew existed, and they're good fucking songs.
They are.
So I kind of taken back my view on the Stones. I used to think they were overrated because
I still think they're overrated, but
I think they're overrated for what's played. But I think if you go back and really look at their full catalog, maybe not so overrated.
I mean, I don't know.
People like them
for much of the last 60 years, 50 years. It's been kind of like a neck and neck battle with what is the greatest kind of like rock or most influential rock band out there, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. And I don't think
the Beatles did it first.
I know, but it's not a very fair comparison because I don't think the Rolling Stones ever ascended to anywhere close to what the Beatles were doing.
And that's true, I guess, because when
and that's why I say they're overrated.
The Beatles
because
they're
talked in that same breath, but they don't deserve to belong there.
Yeah, I know, I would agree with that, but like, and to be fair, like you're saying, whether you like it or not, when the Beatles are doing Sgt. Pepper, which for them was a huge departure.
Oh yeah.
The Stones were doing what, Beggar's Opera,
something like that
at that time, maybe. Sticky Fingers, maybe 67 is when that came out.
I think it was closer to 70.
Okay, but still, so it's Beggar's Opera, Sticky Fingers, whatever, which really wasn't groundbreaking. They're good albums, really good fucking albums. Beggar's Opera has Sympathy for the Devil, and it was one of my favorite Stone songs of all
Absolutely.
time.
Even though Guns N' Roses did it better, but
yeah, I can't disagree with it. Guns N' Roses version is fantastic, but. By that standard, what you're saying, I totally agree. There's no comparison, and regardless, the Beatles did it first.
Yeah, which that doesn't really matter to me. It would just I think it's more about quality because whenever you talked about like if there's like a Mount Rushmore of rock, it's basically the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and I don't think the Stones deserve to be there.
Well, considering there's only 4 heads on Mount Rushmore, I think. Paul, John, George, and Ringo are fine on there. If that's what we're going to go for.
Yeah,
there's no room for Keith and Mick. I'm sorry.
But that's kind of my basis for saying for the last 40 years that they're an overrated band. It's just because they're mentioned in that same breath, and I don't think they deserve to be there.
Well, and I've
had
a
very very good rock band. They're in that. If you want to say the Beatles are like the top of the class. The Stones were in that second tier.
Yeah. They're, what's the salutatorian or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it is. But I would put the Stones up there with, Pink Floyd for that 70s era, Led Zeppelin in that era, Aerosmith in that era. I would put the Rolling Stones kind of maybe a little bit above them.
Because they, again, came first.
No, I don't really care about came first. I'm talking about just sheer quality.
Well, what I mean by came first, and this is because I've had to defend the Beatles on numerous occasions.
Because the Model A came out before the Mustang. I would still say the Mustang's a better car than the Model A.
That's a fair analogy, and I can agree with that. But the argument that I've had to make to defend the Beatles, because I've had to literally defend people against saying that the Beatles suck and had no bearing on rock music at all.
Well, they had a huge bearing on rock music.
I would try to tell that to a 22-year-old.
Most of the music produced in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s was because of the Beatles.
And better than the Beatles, to point it out. But if it hadn't been for the Beatles, would any of that music have existed? At least in the form that it did?
Probably not.
That's my argument. That's what I mean by them doing it first. If the Stones hadn't existed, even if the Beatles did...
I think we're arguing about two different things. I would say definitely the Beatles are the most influential band in the history of music.
Right.
I said band.
Yeah.
Band. I guess you could say Beethoven is more influential. That's why I said band.
No, and I wasn't going to go that.
I would say they are... I could make the argument that they are the most influential band in music history.
Right.
But... I don't want to get too up. We're running like over an hour and a half, so let's.
Okay.
I could do an entire show about this.
Right. It's our 60th episode, so if
that's true.
If it goes a little long, what the fuck? But anyway, I mean, I don't have anything else to add as far as our topic goes. So
yeah, I would just say, we put a list out there. What was it, 10 artists, 10 or plus artists. Yeah, and so
I've got one to look at for myself that I haven't even gotten.
I would say go out there and take a listen to them, see what you like. Don't take our word for it. Just because I didn't necessarily like something, or doesn't mean you won't.
Right.
So go out there.
And really,
music is so subjective.
It is. It is very subjective. But at the very least, if there's an artist you like, Spotify, Apple Music, they have suggestions based on that.
Oh, yeah.
Go there. Start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you might find stuff you didn't know existed.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, if you find something you like, do it again. Because eventually those bands, it's gonna vary.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep doing it. You'll find new stuff.
But but that's all I got, though, man.
Yeah, I'm spent.
That sounds bad. Sounds very, very fucking bad.
Well,
anyway, any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, our website, which is lifeandjournalpodcast.com. That's about all I got.
I'm good.
All right.
I won't say it again. So
what?
What I said before that you didn't want. Yeah, I won't say it again.
It just sounded bad. Well, until next time.
Doesn't have to mean that. Just means I'm tired. I'm good. I'm worn out. I've blown my load.
I'm spent.
I've blown my podcasting load.
Oh, Jesus. Well, until next time.
Spider-Man style.
Say what you need to say, Ian.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two GoPros, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Now they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Now they sick as fuck. Now they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Now you sick as fuck. Get well soon.